Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Right now, as I speak, Attorney General Bill Barr is testifying before Congress. We've got a jam-packed show full of clips from that testimony. Bill Barr is essentially an unmovable monolith. He is unflappable. You cannot rattle this guy. You cannot sway him. He is perfect. He is doing everything exactly the way that I had hoped he would. Not only in today's testimony, but in his past testimony with his behavior in regards to execution of the rule of law. Bill Barr is a wonderful person to have in this office, and I think he's exactly what we need for President Trump to help clean up the Justice Department, the swamp in the Justice Department. Now, a couple of things I wanted to touch on from my broadcast from the other day. I had asked my viewers if they had any input on those vehicles that we saw on the train heading north from Sacramento in California. I got many responses. I want to thank everybody for their input. And I also wanted to just stress that I didn't want to give the impression that this was some type of an operation that was going to be moving on people in America. You know, the military is the only thing standing between us and utter annihilation, as far as I'm concerned. With President Trump in full control of the military, I believe that they are at the hands and the disposal of people who are good with, the proper intentions. Couldn't say that in the past. And I know that there were many things that were done to ensure that perhaps they were not working in the best interest of the people, but I know that now they are. So I thought maybe they were heading to the border. Maybe this was some kind of buildup, or maybe for something that was going to happen here that it would just be necessary for, but it was never a danger. I never wanted to insinuate that. So now that that's out of the way, a couple of key points. Many people were able to identify, and one of my viewers in particular gave me very detailed information on the types of trains, the movement. Overall, it seems like it's a pretty normal thing. They have spring exercises that they do quite often, I guess. There's Fort Lewis that's a little bit north in California. So it seemed to be the consensus that those vehicles were moving on to Fort Lewis. But there is this disaster preparedness exercise that's taking place in Oregon. It's called Operation Ox, and it's a statewide full-scale exercise that's going on now. It'll be ending tomorrow. But it's in conjunction with the Oregon Health Authority, and it's a training exercise on the intentional release of plague. So they're focusing on the rapid distribution of antibiotics, and they just want people to know that it is going on. There is going to be many scenarios that are carried out. I do think this is something we want to keep an eye on. The Pacific Northwest is a hotbed for a particular organization. I'm not going to say their name out loud because as soon as I do, I will get everything shut down. We're going to go into that organization here in a moment because it will tie into things that they've done in the past and something that's happened very recently with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So I just wanted to fill you guys in on that. I believe that those vehicles were heading north to at least Fort Lewis, if not going a little bit further north, perhaps to help out with this operation right here. As it was pointed out in the video, there were many vehicles that had red crosses on the side, so those would be medical evac vehicles or medical support vehicles. So now that that's out of the way, I was speaking with my good friend Mr. W over the weekend, and he pointed out to me, in light of the new information that's come out about the former Vice President's Chief of Staff, Josh Pitcock, and his possible role, along with his wife, as confidential informants for the Strzok, Page, and Russia collusion team. It was brought to my attention that right here in the same conversation on November 17th, 2016, in the inbox, I don't know if it's Strzok or the inbox of Page, it says, regarding your email, redacted, no, redacted, briefed Pence, right, just so there are no surprises. I don't know, and then the outbox, I don't know if they would recall who did, but they know we sent someone. I spoke to blank about it. We both think there's no action for us to take. Regarding email, it might be important for blank to know that blank briefed Pence. No, I think that's a good idea. I'll talk with blank so they can build messaging and don't overlap. And then they go on in a couple of messages to discuss, or he's the CI guy. Same might make sense. He can assess if there are any new cues or different demeanor. If Katie's husband is there, he can see if there are people we can develop for potential relationships. And then should I ask Andy about it, or do you want Bill to reach out? So it looks to me that it's very possible that this conversation is in regards to briefing about this confidential informant operation that was taking place. If that's the case, and these are just unrelated messages that just happen to be in the same chain, then, Pence is okay. But if they are regarding Pence being briefed on the fact that his chief of staff was acting as a confidential informant and gathering information on President Trump and his associates, I think Vice President Pence is going to have quite a bit of explaining to do. So if you guys want to check this out, I will leave a link so you can download all of the text messages and the emails between Strzok and Page that have been released. This is from the FBI from a couple months ago. So it does not have Katie's name unredacted here, but it's clear that they are talking about someone briefing Pence on something that they don't want him to be surprised about. And it seems to me that it's a pretty reasonable assumption, considering the proximity of these messages, that they are discussing briefing Pence about the fact that his chief of staff is spying on the president. So the first story of the day came out over the weekend, and it looks like the Federal Bureau of Investigation is investigating a particular anti-Trump organization that's famous for causing a lot of trouble at rallies around the country, for punching certain people in the face that they deem to be of a particular political nature. And they like to set trash cans on fire and wear all black. Well, the FBI is investigating these anti-fasci activists for an alleged plot to buy GUNs from a Mexican cartel in order to stage an armed rebellion at the southern border, according to an unclassified document obtained by the Chicago Tribune. The FBI document from December of 2018 warns of militant activists planning to disrupt security operations at the U.S.-Mexico border. The group allegedly planned to buy these weapons from a Mexican cartel associate known as Cobra Commander in order to stage an armed rebellion at the border. This looks like it might be a sting operation, Cobra Commander. The source who provided it to the San Diego Tribune asked the outlet not to publish the 6-page document because the investigation is ongoing, and the outlet cited 2 additional law enforcement officials who confirmed the news. The FBI has warned dozens of law enforcement agencies in both Mexico and the United States of the alleged plot. 2 of the men named in the report told the San Diego Tribune the allegations are absurd. It doesn't make any sense that someone from the United States would purchase these things in Mexico, Ivan Riebling, the man known as Cobra Commander, told the outlet. And the Hondurans certainly didn't bring money to buy any of them either. It doesn't make any sense. In fact, it's extremely absurd to say the Hondurans wanted to attack the United States at the border. The FBI sent the report marked priority to agencies including the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the Clowns in America, and the No Such Agency. This group is known for using violent means, including in protests against peaceful conservative speakers, free speech activists, and even journalists. The well-documented instances of violence include a protester repeatedly punching a man in the face, throwing water bottles and launching fireworks at police officers, and starting fires on a college campus with Molotov cocktails. The Daily Caller News Foundation's reporting led to the arrest of a particular leader of the group, who stands accused of accosting and assaulting 2 Marines in Philadelphia in a particularly vile attack, if you'll remember. Former Vice President Joe Biden launched his campaign for president by praising the group. He referred to a group of protesters who gathered in a certain city in Virginia and violently confronted people of a particular race looking for their own nation, a courageous group of Americans. So You can see this story is fraught with peril. YouTube has really cracked down on the particular words that I would need to say to report on this fully. So I have to be very careful about the way that I say them. This is a great news, you guys. This is wonderful news. The idea that this group has been caught attempting to stage an insurrection on the border, this is exactly what the FBI needs to fully go after them. I'm not saying it's going to be, because I know that there are still sectors within the FBI that need to be cleaned up, but I think that this could be the first domino that begins to fall and then take everyone out in this group of people. We know they're dangerous. We know that they are themselves fasci. We know that they are willing to do whatever it takes to support their cause. We know that their particular brand of political radicalism brings with it a host of issues and is antithetical to the American way. So I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on this. And I am very, very excited to see where our Federal Bureau of Investigation takes this particular investigation. Now, next on the docket, Mark Meadows stated yesterday that House Republicans are planning to criminally refer 2 or 3 individuals connected to Fusion GPS. This is incredible news. Gotta love it. Congressman Mark Meadows said Tuesday that House Republicans are planning on criminally referring a few individuals connected to the Oppo research firm Fusion GPS. WAPO reporter Robert Acosta asked Representative Meadows Tuesday if House Republicans were eyeing any individuals for criminal referrals after Schiff revealed Eric Prince will be criminally referred to the DOJ for supposedly making a false statement to Congress. Wow. Meadows did not divulge any names. However, House Republicans have stated in the past that Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson made false statements to the House Intel panel during a 2017 November testimony about the timing of his contact with twice-demoted DOJ official Bruce Ohr. I can tell you that there are 2 or 3 individuals we believe could have potentially given false testimony to Congress. We have been looking at that, reviewing not only the Mueller report, but comparing those to transcribed interviews that might have happened in Congress, Meadows said Tuesday at an event hosted by The Washington Post. Meadows said criminal referrals would be related to the phony dossier in Fusion GPS, the Oppo research firm which commissioned dossier author Christopher Steele. I do have great concerns on the role not just Fusion GPS, but those associated with it played early on and how that was used or not used as it relates to this investigation, Meadows said. Pkwy, the law firm representing Hillary Clinton's campaign, hired Fusion GPS in April of 2016 to dig up dirt on Trump's campaign. Fusion GPS then, of course, hired British spy Christopher Steele to reach out to his Russian intel sources to dig up dirt on Trump's campaign. Steele ended up compiling a 35-page garbage dossier full of unverified, salacious allegations against Trump and members of his campaign. The phony dossier formed an essential part of the FBI's investigation into Trump's campaign and was used to obtain a FISA warrant and 3 subsequent renewals of Carter Page. Although the FBI terminated its relationship with Christopher Steele in November of 2016, DOJ official Bruce Ohr continued to work as a back channel for Steele to the FBI and Mueller's probe throughout 2017. Criminal referrals sent to the DOJ while Jeff Sessions was the Attorney General went nowhere. Newly confirmed AG Bill Barr is about the rule of law, so there's hope that the criminal referrals sent by the DOJ by Meadows and Nunes actually turn into indictments. That would obviously be the best possible case. I really do believe that Attorney General Barr is actually about enforcing the rule of law. I think that when these referrals are sent to him, I think that they are actually going to bear fruit. And we've actually had some confirmation of that in the testimony today. Let's take a look. Although not a specific comment on the conduct of Fusion GPS, this does have to deal with the conduct of the FBI. This particular conduct was in regards to the multiple criminal leak investigations that are happening at the DOJ as we speak. And this is from my friend Methods. He did a great job of clipping out a bunch of little snippets from this testimony today. So this is an encounter between Grassley and Barr. Let's go ahead and take a look.
There have been a number of leaks coming out of the Justice Department and FBI during high-profile investigations. The Inspector General found that during the department's investigation of Hillary Clinton for mishandling highly classified information, there was a culture of unauthorized media contacts. During the Russian investigation, the leaks continued. Leaks undermine the ability of investigators to investigate. Further leaks to the papers while Congress's questions to the department go unanswered is unacceptable. Why? What are you doing to investigate unauthorized media contacts by the department and FBI officials during the Russian investigation?
We have multiple criminal leak investigations underway.
Well, right there, that is confirmation that there are things taking place at the DOJ that are good for the rule of law. Leaking is not something that can be tolerated. As Grassley said, it undermines the ability of the investigation to proceed as it should. And I think we can see that the leaks have done nothing but spread smear campaigns, innuendos. They've been designed to hurt President Trump and to benefit Hillary Clinton, if anything. So good news. I'm very glad to hear this from Attorney General Bill Barr. Now, with regard to the conduct that we were speaking about earlier, Representative Ratcliffe was being interviewed on Fox and Friends earlier today, and he was, asked a question about AG Barr and then the spying allegation that AG Barr brought up in the previous testimony that he gave. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what Representative Ratcliffe had to say.
There's a good possibility that the Republicans are going to talk about what something Mr. Barr said, and that was spying did occur. You want to know more about that from the DOJ's point of view on the Trump campaign, right?
I do. As Bill Barr said, spying did occur. Bob Mueller found that there was no collusion, there was no conspiracy. Doesn't mean that there couldn't be a proper predicate to look for it or probable cause. But, Steve, if the probable cause was the Steele dossier, a fake, phony dossier, if that was the basis of the probable cause, then there are a lot of folks at the FBI and the Department of Justice that will have some explaining to do. So Bill Barr's going to get a lot of questions about what other evidence there was at the basis of this surveillance of the Trump campaign.
Now, what's incredibly interesting about this is that the dossier has been held up as the predicate, but we learned recently from Joe DeGenova that it was actually not the predicate for the investigation. So what we learned from Joe DeGenova is that the spying actually began prior to the introduction of the Steele dossier. Perhaps that it was in the midst of being compiled, but this actually began much earlier, and it started with the White House. And it was much larger than previously revealed. I think that we're going to find out a lot more information, and we're going to see just how far-reaching this was. Now, of course, when Attorney General Barr brought out his summary of the Mueller report prior to his making it public due to the nature of our laws in this country, Mueller was apparently not all too happy with him, and he wrote a letter, and this came out yesterday. Attorney General Bill Barr was addressed by Robert Mueller with several complaints shortly after he released his summary of the special counsel's principal conclusions. Now, Mueller wrote to Barr in a letter on March 27th, just 3 days after the Attorney General released that 4-page summary to Congress, confirming, of course, that Mueller did not find any evidence of Trump conspiring with the Kremlin during the 2016 election campaign. He complained that he did not fully capture the context, nature, and substance of Mueller's report, according to a copy of the letter received Tuesday by the Washington Post. Mueller did not accuse Barr of releasing an inaccurate letter to Congress. Rather, he felt the media coverage of the letter misrepresented the Russia collusion investigation. Mueller complained in his letter about that public confusion, about the critical aspects of his garbage investigation. This threatens to undermine a central purpose for which the department appointed the special counsel, Mueller wrote. And we can read his letter here. Let's go ahead and see this. Dear Attorney General Barr, I previously sent you a letter dated March 25, 2019 that enclosed the introduction and executive summary for each volume of the special counsel's report, marked with redactions to remove any information that potentially could be protected by federal rule of criminal procedure. That concerned declination decisions or that related to a charged case. We also had marked an additional 2 sentences for review and have now confirmed that these sentences can be released publicly. Accordingly, the enclosed documents are in a form that can be released to the public consistent with legal requirements and department policies. I am requesting that you provide these materials to Congress and authorize their public release at this time. As we stated in our meeting on March 5th and reiterated to the department early in the afternoon of March 24th, the introductions and executive summaries of our 2-volume report accurately summarize the office's work and conclusions. The summary letter the department sent to Congress and released to the public late in the afternoon of March 24th did not fully capture the context, nature, and substance of this office's work and conclusions. We communicated that concern to the department on the morning of March 25th. There is now public confusion about critical aspects of the results of our investigation. This threatens to undermine a central purpose for which the department appointed the special counsel, to assure full public confidence in the outcome of the investigations. See Department of Justice press release on May 17, 2017. While we understand that the department is reviewing the full report to determine what is appropriate for public release, a process that our office is working with you to complete, the process need not delay release of the enclosed materials. Release at this time would alleviate the misunderstandings that have arisen and would answer congressional and public questions about the nature and outcome of our investigation. It would also accord with the standard for the public release of notifications to Congress cited in your letter. So Mueller is upset about the confusion in the press, the confusion caused by the press. Mueller's report did not find any conclusion on obstruction because there was no crime to obstruct. I personally don't think it could have been any clearer, and I think that Attorney General William Barr did the right thing in summarizing the findings in a press release and that small speech that he gave at the podium there on the day that he released the first information about it. Now, if he would have just come out and given the entire piece of information out, then the press still would have done the exact same thing. They would have gone through and they would have made their own conclusions and they would have spun it, and it still would have probably been a confusing affair. I think that what's most confusing is the actions of the press and the Democrats in trying to create this air of some type of malfeasance on the part of Attorney General Barr, when he is the Attorney General of the United States. It is his prerogative on how to introduce this information to the public, and it was his decision not to make any findings or to indict the president for anything related to obstruction of justice, because there was absolutely nothing that was found by Mueller and his team. So I think it's very obvious that any confusion here can be pointed directly back to the Democrats in Congress and then the mainstream media, which is essentially their propaganda arm. This is only going to get worse, I think. The questions that Attorney General Barr have been pummeled with by the committee really just continue to add to the confusion. Now, as a result of the disagreements, Mueller and Congress have reached an agreement to allow him to come and testify about the Russian collusion-delusion investigation. And House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler told reporters Wednesday that this agreement has been reached and that Mueller will be testifying. He's going to be testifying possibly about President Trump's so-called efforts to impede the witch hunt, even though there were none of those either. He exerted no executive privilege, and he certainly didn't fire anyone, even though he would have had the presidential authority to do so. Mueller will be coming to testify sometime in May. However, a specific date has not yet been reported. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appointed Special Counsel Robert Mueller to investigate the Trump-Russia collusion-delusion in May of 2017, shortly after he recommended that President Trump fire Director James Comey. Mueller put together that dream team of Democrat donors to hunt down Trump and his associates without even naming a crime. It was a fishing expedition, and after nearly 2 years and $35 million later, Mueller and his crooked top prosecutor Andrew Weissman released the 448-page smear that was called the Mueller Report. Mueller's witch hunt was, of course, full of conflicts of interest. It served only to damage the president, and it used selective leaks and destroyed many lives. This, hopefully, will lead to some questioning from Republicans regarding those leaks and regarding the conduct of the investigators. Also, perhaps about the background of these investigators and why Mueller thought that it would be a good idea to choose them, considering their conflicts of interest. I personally am really looking forward to seeing Mueller testify before Congress at the committee. Now, back to today's testimony with Attorney General Barr just shredding the Democrats here. He laughed at Senator Sheldon Whitehouse in regards to his use of the term spying. Attorney General Barr Wednesday was testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee regarding Mueller's report, but of course he's not intimidated by the screeching Democrats, and he's putting them in their places. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, a Democrat from Rhode Island, isn't very bright. He actually argued that it was unfair to Trump to not indict him. Are you kidding me? If you are the president of the United States, you can either waive or readily override the OLC opinion and say, I'm ready. I want to exonerate myself. Let's go. Could you not? Sheldon Whitehouse asked Attorney General Barr. Barr replied, how is this relevant to my decisions? Barr also schooled Sheldon Whitehouse on his previous use of the term spying. I don't think spying has any kind of pejorative connotation at all, Barr said. I think spying is a good English word. It's commonly used in the press. Sheldon Whitehouse shot back and said the word spying isn't commonly used by the Department of Justice. It's commonly used by me, Barr said, laughing. Let's take a look.
In the entirety of your previous career in the Department of Justice, including as Attorney General, have you ever referred to authorized department investigative activities officially or publicly as spying? I'm not asking for private conversation.
I'm not going to abjure the use of the word spying. I think, my first job was in CIA, and I don't think the word spying has any pejorative connotation at all. To me, the question is always whether or not it's authorized and adequately predicated spying. I think spying is a good English word that, in fact, doesn't have synonyms because it is the broadest word incorporating really all forms of covert intelligence collection. So I'm not going to back off the word spying, except I will say I'm not suggesting any pejorative, and I use it frequently, as do media.
When did you decide to use it? Was it off the cuff in the hearing that day, or did you go into that hearing intending to use the word spying?
It was actually off the cuff, to tell you the truth, and when a senator, the
Congressman, probably?
Well, from Schatz, from Hawaii.
Oh, was here? Shaheen?
No.
Whoever it was, go ahead.
Yeah, when he challenged me and said, "Do you want to change your language?" I was actually thinking, like, what's the issue? I don't consider it a pejorative. But frankly, we went back and looked at press usage, and up until all the FAW outrage a couple of weeks ago, it's commonly used in the press to refer to authorized activities, such as referring to the FISA court as the spy court.
But it's not commonly used by the department.
What?
It is not commonly used by the department. My time is
commonly used by me.
Boom. There's no other word to describe it. Spying is spying. Covert action to gather information about a target. President Trump and his team were the target. He was spied upon. His wires were tapped, as he ineloquently stated, because they jumped all over him for those particular words as well. What do you want to call it? Okay? What else do you want to call it? The Democrats want to try to soften it so that the American public doesn't know exactly what happened. You can't hide it anymore, Democrats. President Trump and his team were spied on. That's what happened. The Attorney General is speaking plainly, just as our president does. There's no other way you can possibly describe it. He was spied upon. And in another record-breaking smackdown, Bill Barr left Dianne Feinstein speechless after she tried to accuse Trump of obstruction. Let's take a look at this. Attorney General Barr on Wednesday was, of course, testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee about the report from Mueller, and ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Dianne Feinstein, grilled Barr about the so-called obstruction episodes in Mueller's report. Feinstein questioned Barr about the report's claims that President Trump asked his lawyer Don McGahn to fire Mueller. Trump also asked McGahn to correct the inaccurate New York Times article stating he instructed Mueller's firing. In reality, President Trump instructed his counsel to look into Mueller's conflicts of interest, and ultimately, Mueller was never fired, a fact that Bill Barr pointed out to Feinstein. Feinstein continued to push back and argued that Trump trying to prevent further criticism of himself is somehow a crime. Bill Barr put her in her place. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that.
Just to finish this, but you still have a situation where a president essentially tries to change the lawyer's account in order to prevent further criticism of himself.
Well, that's not a crime.
So you can, in this situation, instruct someone to lie?
No, it has to be, well, to be obstruction of justice, the lie has to be tied to impairing the evidence in a particular proceeding. McGahn had already given his evidence, and I think it would be plausible that the purpose of McGahn memorializing what the president was asking was to make the record that the president never directed him to fire. And there is a distinction between saying to someone, go fire him, go fire Mueller, and saying, have him removed based on conflict.
Seems to me that Dianne Feinstein needs to do some research on the law and to perhaps read up on what the actual definition of obstruction is. This was a completely justifiable request to make to Don McGahn. Mueller did, in fact, have many conflicts of interest, and the idea of having him removed because of those conflicts of interest are, again, completely within the rights and responsibilities of the president, and they should have been considered when Mueller was appointed as special counsel. I think that, if anything, it's done just good things for President Trump. It has strengthened his case, showing that despite these conflicts of interest, they were still unable to determine any crimes committed. None. Zip. Zero. Now, what the Democrats should be doing is worrying about making sure that this type of thing doesn't happen in the future. Not only the type of election meddling that they are claiming took place from Russia, but also the abuse of power that we saw with the use of the FISA court system. So let's take a listen to this line of questioning from Lindsey Graham and Bill Barr in lockstep with exactly how he's thinking.
So you would support an effort by Congress working with the administration to harden our electoral infrastructure?
Yes.
Is that one of the takeaways of the Mueller report?
Yes.
Do you share my concerns about the FISA warrant process?
Yes.
Do you share my concerns about the counterintelligence investigation, how it was opened and why it was opened?
Yes.
Do you share my concerns that the lack of professionalism in the Clinton email investigation is something we should all look at?
Yes.
Do you expect to change your mind about the bottom line conclusions of the Mueller report?
No.
See, the thing is, the reason the Democrats don't want to address any of these things is because it weakens their toolbox, their ability to bend and break the rules so that they can use our system to serve their own wicked ends. Bill Barr is seriously the guy who is going to change all of that. They are quaking in their boots. They are scared to death. And Bill Barr, people like Lindsey Graham, the Republicans that we have in Congress right now, they are doing God's work. They are actually working towards fixing this broken system we have. And this is one of the most exciting things that I've seen today. Bill Barr is a no-nonsense guy. He is looking around him, the people, the behavior in the DOJ, and he's disgusted. Look at his face right now. Look at the look of contempt on his face. The fact that he is even being forced to answer questions like this, because it should be self-evident. This is something that never should have taken place in the first place. Bill Barr is utterly repulsed by the behavior of the DOJ and the FBI and the politicians that he sees around him, treating him with such incredible contempt and disrespect. Bill Barr is going to help drain the swamp, you guys. For my viewers who said that they don't trust Barr, I challenge you to show me one thing that's come out of his mouth or any of his actions that will prove that we can't trust Bill Barr. I know his beginnings. I know where he started, but I simply do not believe that every person involved in that particular organization is 100% morally corrupt and bankrupt. I think that people over the last several decades have slowly watched as Washington and America eroded, as our values were compromised, as our morals were sacrificed. I know it's been going on for a long time, but it was like I've said before, that slow boil on the frog. A lot of good people sat back and watched and did nothing, and instead thought about their own interests. Well, we now have one man in the White House who was willing to sacrifice it all, who was willing to do whatever it took, any means necessary, to bring America back to its glory, to make America great again, and to give us, we the people, the country we deserve. Now, you guys know what will solve all of this. Any questions that these politicians might have, any questions the American public would have about how this began, how it was predicated, how it took place, who ordered it. Well, Senator Kennedy knows, and he asked Bill Barr about it today. Let's go ahead and listen.
It would seem to me that we all have a duty, if not to the American people, to the FBI, to find out why these investigations were started, who started them, and the evidence on which they were started. And I hope you will do that, and will get back to us. And there's another short way home here as well. All you've got to do is release, the president can, release all the documents at the FBI and the Justice Department pertaining to the 2016 election. Now, you can redact national security information, but just release them. Instead of us going through all this spin and innuendo and leaks and rumors, let's just let the American people see them.
Let the American public decide. We have the right to know. We deserve to know exactly who was once sitting in the same chair as President Trump and what they were willing to do to hold on to the power that they had gathered amongst their co-conspirators. This is exactly what will make the levee break. D-class, D-class, D-class. But don't forget, guys, we got Comey, we got D-class, we got IG, and then we got, what's after that? Huber. Now, one more bit of Bill Barr getting savage on these Democrats here. One last one for my buddy Methods. That moment AG Barr got savage with Senator Blumenthal. Check out Dick's face at the end. Let's take a look.
Did you make a memorandum of your conversation?
Huh?
Did you make a memorandum?
No, I didn't
or
make
did
a
anyone else?
memorandum. What?
Did anyone, either you or anyone on your staff, memorialize your conversation with Robert Mueller?
Yes.
Who did that?
There were notes taken of the call.
May we have those notes?
No.
Why not?
Why should you have them?
I'll tell you.
Dick Blumenthal. What? What? He's not used to being told no. Oh, that was hilarious. I love Bill Barr. I think he's great. I think that he did such a great job today, and that every time he's appeared, he has just been impeccable. You cannot get any better than this. Oh, Dick, Donang, Dick, you're not going to get it this time, buddy. No reason for you to have those notes. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.